Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard to episode 11. We're in the double digits now of the Dropkicks and Attractions podcast. I am, of course, your host with the most, the Prince of Pop Culture, Xander Invictus, joined by my close personal friend and co-host Big Bach. How are you, sir?
Doing great today. You doing okay, too?
I am exhausted, but you can understand why, because we have a long one today, folks.
Oh, yeah.
We are coming up to the go-home show for Super Bowl 3, but we have 3 episodes of wrestling today because Monday Night Raw that would have been for this week was preempted by the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show. This is something that happened every year. Oh, God. Well, let's just put it this way. This is going to happen every year around this time for the foreseeable future, so. It get preempted. I think the U.S. Open would also preempt Monday Night Raw once a year, too. So this happened a few times. This was before, Raw was, remember, this is WWE was not near as huge as it is now to where it's like, yeah, we're going to do this.
Right.
So we are going to start with WCW Saturday Night for February 13th, Monday Night Raw for February 15th, and WCW Saturday Night for February 20th, which is the day before Super Bowl 3, which we will cover in the next Dropkicks episode.
Right.
So we're just going to hop into this because we got a lot. Okay, we're starting with WCW Saturday Night, February 13th, 1993. Good old JR and the living legend, Larry Zbyszko, opened the show, promoting all the matches that are going on tonight. We also talk about... We're still continuing the story between Eric Watts and Arn Anderson, which we've seen the footage of the gas station attack. We've dissected and torn that apart a couple times. While supposedly, according to Arn Anderson and his medical personnel, he has a broken leg and torn ligaments or muscles of some sort.
Right. WCW's doctors have no idea about that.
Yes, but according to Arn Anderson and his people, he says he does. They go to Larry Zbyszko, who was in the Dangerous Alliance stable with Arn Anderson a couple years ago, and he goes, he knows for a fact that Arn Anderson is in rehab, but you need to take what Arn Anderson says with a bag of salt.
Right.
So we'll see how that turns out. We're going backstage with Tony Schiavone, who is with Barry Windham and Paul Orndorf about their tag team match this evening between U.S. champion Dustin Rhodes and a mystery partner. We're not going to know who the mystery partner is until the match starts. And they're, they don't have no idea what it is. Mr. Wonderful thinks it's Dusty Rhodes. It could be. Dusty Rhodes was still pretty active at this point. He did a lot of backstage work as well. So right now we got 1 vote for Dusty Rhodes.
Okay.
We'll see who it is, obviously, when we get there.
Yeah, I know who it is because it was spoiled for me on the episode promo on Peacock.
But we won't say.
Right.
So, our first match of the evening and the show is a tag team match between our World Unified Tag Team Champions, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Shane Douglas, going up against Joe Cruz and Fred Avery. And I noticed that Steamboat and Avery are starting, but I also noticed that Fred Avery is a very hairy gentleman. It looked like he was wearing a fur coat underneath his singlet.
Yeah, just wow.
Imagine the shower drains on that one. Anyways, Steamboat using the speed that he's known for. Quick tag to Douglas. He does a little bit. Tags back into Steamboat. Cruz tags in. He gets a power slam from Steamboat. Crossbody. Ladies and gentlemen, the match is over.
Yeah, that was only 95 seconds, and that was pretty boring.
Yeah, it was boom, boom. Hey, we're tag team champions. We're keeping them hyped. We're making them look strong. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was not much more. I was like, oh, okay, match is over.
Yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah. So we go backstage again with Tony, who is with United States champion Dustin Rhodes about his match. And the mystery partner is actually with him.
Yeah, he's wearing a blanket over his head and smoking a cigar through a hole in the blanket.
Yeah, which I kind of found that humorous. It almost reminded me like, a ghost.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Like a ghost wearing the sheet over their head. The woo.
Yeah.
The mystery partner doesn't speak. They're just smoking. So we go to commercial and we're back. And we go up to this episode's edition of WCW Up Close with Gordon Soley, who is sitting there with JR, and they go over what happened the last week prior between the Heavenly Bodies and the Rock and Roll Express about how the Heavenly Bodies did a 4-on-2 beatdown on the Rock and Roll Express after their match last week.
That was a great segment last week, yeah.
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, when you got Hall of Famers in the Rock and Roll Express, you have considered one of the greatest tag teams of that time frame with the Heavenly Bodies. You got Jim Cornette, who's considered one of the greatest managers there. I mean, there was a lot of parts in there that are like, okay, this is going to be good just off the parts.
Right.
So we go to our next match, which, if you like short matches like the last one, here you go. Big Van Vader, the WCW World Champion, going up against poor Rick Thames.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting too much out of this.
No, Vader floors the guy, one solid shot to the face, the guy hits the floor. Yeah,
right hand, torture rack, backdrop, second rope splash, powerbomb, win. Rick literally did nothing.
Yeah, there was the Thunderfire powerbomb, and we got a time frame on that, sir.
1 minute, 10 seconds.
So he lasted even shorter. So after this, because, we are promoting the White Castle Affairs strap match, which we'll explain the rules when we get to Super Brawl. Not a lot, but we'll explain it more in detail then. Harley Race comes in and puts face paint on the poor gentleman, and Vader starts whipping him with a leather strap. And even though he won, JR said the ref has DQ'd Vader and Harley Race for this. So this is actually a reverse decision. So Rick Thames actually wins this match off a reverse decision because
Vader goes to town with that leather strap.
And the face paint from Harley Race.
Right.
So we go back, we're going to commercial again. Back from commercial, we get JR with stunning Steve Austin and Brian Pillman. They're the number one contenders to the tag titles.
Mm-hmm. We have a match between Austin and Marcus Alexander Bagwell coming up. Austin not concerned with that in the slightest.
Because he's like, oh, we're worried about, we're getting the tag titles, we're getting the tag shot. And they do go to a clip, I believe it was from Main Event, where Marcus Alexander Bagwell is actually able to get a roll-up pinfall win over Flying Brian, which he says it was a fluke, he cheated, this, that, and the other, whine, reasons. He says, Pillman offers and says that that Austin can beat Bagwell under 10 minutes.
Yeah, they take that bad.
So, and what's going to happen? So we go to that match, stunning Steve Austin versus Marcus Alexander Bagwell. And the stipulation is, if Austin cannot defeat Bagwell in 10 minutes, Bagwell wins. And they do, throughout the match, keep a clock on the screen so we can get a general idea how much is left.
Yes.
So, there's, easily back and forth. Like, both these guys are very technically sound. Bagwell was, I think, one of the more underrated, especially around this time frame, because he was still super young.
Mm-hmm.
And we know how good Austin was.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Bagwell gets a real nice, after a back and forth, Bagwell locks in a nice tight headlock, has it in for a little bit. Austin finally takes over, a lot of basic stuff, nothing too flashy right now. Where Austin gets some stiff shots, according to and this threw me. Like, I don't know if this was real time or TV time. When they first showed the clock, 5 minutes was already gone. Like, I don't know if it was just, I just got enraptured and then this match is just went by faster than I thought, or, we're using TV magic.
I'm pretty sure the timer was legit.
Okay. So we'll go with that then. So 5 minutes already gone, like, instantly. Austin lands a back suplex. Bagwell's able to come back with a desperation small package. Austin just nips that in the bud real quick, and he goes back into control.
Bagwell gets a sleeper and then rolls Austin up real quick.
And also lands in a clothesline right after the everybody gets up from the roll-up. We're at 2 minutes already.
Yeah, this match moved very fast.
It did, and a lot of times, especially at the end, but throughout the match, a lot of times what Bagwell was doing, because he knew the time was on his side, he would roll out, powder out, roll out every so often out of the ring.
Yeah, he was burning the clock.
Yeah, which would make sense. I understand that.
Yeah, it's a legitimate strategy.
Yeah. So Bagwell comes back in towards the end, lands a suplex and a backdrop. Austin is able to counter and land a gorgeous double arm suplex and a clothesline, but he gets a 2 count on that. Then he lands another gut wrench suplex. We got 15 seconds left.
And he comes close, but he just can't quite make it happen.
Yeah, he goes for a roll-up. He has the tights, but Bagwell's able to kick out, and just a few seconds left. Bagwell rolls out of the ring. The match is over. 10 minutes is up. And Marcus Alexander Bagwell gets a win over both members of the tag team.
Yeah, that was within the margin of error for 10 minutes. I clocked it at 10 minutes, 4 seconds.
Okay, so I guess it was It went faster than I thought it did. So it was actually a legitimate 10 minutes. Fantastic.
Yeah, it was a solid match.
Oh, it was a good match. It just went by a lot faster than I thought it did.
Right.
So we're going into the Super Brawl 3 Control Center with Eric Bischoff. And he's going over the card. Like I said, Super Brawl's about a week out from this time frame, so we're going over the card again. He announces a new tag match with Marcus Alexander Bagwell and Eric Watts going up against Stunning Steve Austin and Brian Pillman. We are getting the WCW debut of Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog, who had just dropped the Intercontinental title to Shawn Michaels in October of 92, so just a few months prior to this. We are getting a match between Too Cold Scorpio and Chris Benoit. According to the research I did, these guys had been having time limit draw matches, so we're going to see how that comes into effect at Super Brawl. We are getting the Rock and Roll Express versus the Wrecking Crew, which is going to be a power versus speed matchup, which are always fun to watch.
Yeah, they've been building to that one for a while.
Yeah, that's one of the more matches they've been focusing on for basically as long as we've been doing this show.
Right.
We're getting a Falls Count Anywhere match between Cactus Jack and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorf. No love lost between those gentlemen.
Absolutely not.
And then they've also announced the matches we already knew of prior. Dustin Rhodes is defending the U.S. Championship against Ron Simmons. Barry Windham is going up against the Great Muta for the NWA World title. And the main event's going to be the White Castle of Fear strap match for the WCW title versus Big Van Vader and Sting, who both have pre-recorded comments about, hey, I'm going to win. Yeah, there's obviously no love lost between Sting and Vader. We know this. So, we go to that mystery tag match.
Yeah, they say TV time remaining, so I thought this was the main event, but we actually do have one more after this.
Because I think this might have gone a little bit extra, little bit short. We go to the tag match, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorf and Barry Windham versus Dustin Rhodes and his mystery partner, who comes to the ring under the blanket. He gets into the ring under the blanket, still smoking a cigar. Everybody's wondering who it is. Dustin Rhodes pulls the blanket off. It's Cactus Jack, and the crowd goes absolutely nuts for Cactus Jack.
Yeah, that was a very loud pop.
And this match just starts off it starts off with a brawl. I kind of was expecting it to start like that with these four guys and the bad blood and history between these four guys. You were not going to start this with collar and elbow tie-ups and hammerlocks. This was going to be a fight.
Absolutely. We start with Cactus Jack engaged with Paul Orndorf. They're going to be the legal men as we start. And then Rhodes and Windham are on the outside.
Yeah, and the crowd's hot. From the time they reveal it's Cactus Jack to the end of this match, the crowd's absolutely insane. So they're going back and forth with the Cactus Jack and Dustin Rhodes. Back in commercial. Rhodes is in, and he's got full control. Orndorf lands a clothesline from the outside, but he tags in, and Rhodes repeats with that clothesline and gives him a receipt. We get Windham and Jack back in, who Windham lands a Saeed suplex on Cactus Jack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jack rolls to the outside, and Orndorf pursues.
So they bring Cactus Jack back in, and I was actually surprised with this. I knew he was a little agile, but I was kind of surprised to see the Barry Windham drop kick, and it was a very nice one.
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't something I remember him doing a lot, so when it's nice to see something like that, and it looked nice.
Right, I gotcha.
He was a good 6'6", 6'7". Barry Windham's a tall dude.
I gotcha.
So Cactus Jack's the face in peril there for a while. He is able to tag in Dustin, breaks down on a fight again, and breaks down in that brawl. Orndorf and Jack start fighting towards the entrance area where they come in, and Paul throws Cactus Jack through the entrance opening. Rhodes is able to actually land the Bulldog on Barry Windham, but Orndorf breaks it up at the last second.
Yeah, that is his finisher at this time, right?
Yeah, Dustin Rhodes' finisher was the Bulldog. Matter of fact, for the majority of his time in WCW, it was the Bulldog.
Okay.
So Orndorf breaks it up at the last second. Windham is actually able to land a DDT, not his DDT finisher, just a DDT. And before he can get the pinfall, Cactus Jack comes in with that big old scoop shovel, starts swinging it around, and the good guys get disqualified over this.
Yeah, that's bell-to-bell time, 7 minutes, 46 seconds.
Super dense.
Yeah, very dense, very good.
Match of the night for me. Easy. 100%. Not question.
I got to agree with you on that. Just consider the other matches were there's mostly just enhancement stuff,
which we'll get to in about 2 seconds. But yeah, this was easily match of the night. There was just so much that happened. It was nice. Everybody got their stuff in. It continued storylines. Logical beginning, logical ending. It worked for me.
Yes.
So we go to commercial and we come back. JR is interviewing the Wrecking Crew. They keep talking about how they're going to become the tag team champions. A little bit of basically the same promos they've been having lately where it's like, doesn't matter who wins the titles, they're going to end up taking them from whoever. And we get to the quote-unquote main event, which main event as in the last match of the episode. Z-Man and Johnny Gunn versus Ali Pasha and Bob Cook. And this was about as long as the other enhancement matches were this evening. Zank and Cook start. Cook gets in control for a moment. The men take in their respective partners. Ali Pasha comes in, and after about 2 seconds, he gets a super kick, Thez press combo, and the match is over.
Yep, just 2 minutes on the nose there.
2 minutes. So, it's nice. It was nice. Obviously, we already said that for both of us, the Orndorf, Wyndham, Dustin Rhodes, Cactus Jack match was our match of the night.
Mm-hmm.
The Bagwell also match was still really good as well.
Yeah, if we're doing honorable mentions, I would give it to that.
Absolutely. The rest were just enhancement. We're putting some guys out there. That was nice. They're still really pushing towards Super Raw here in about 2 weeks. At least we got... Then actually, the card that they showed during the Control Center, that is the exact card. They don't add or remove any matches. They will add and remove personnel, which we'll get to as we get there. But they don't actually... Those are the exact matches that are going to happen at Super Raw, minus some personnel changes.
Right.
Now that that's over with, we're going to get to the only Monday Night Raw episode of the episode. February 15th, 1993. It's the day after Valentine's Day. We're still in the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City. And the show opens right away. No nothing. Right there on Bruce Beefcake talking about his match with Ted DiBiase. He's going to cutting and strutting and doing all the stuff. And then they go to the contrasting remarks with Ted DiBiase.
Yeah, Jimmy Hart's still trying to convince him not to do this.
Yeah, he's actually showing concern that he doesn't need to do this. Is like because he keeps saying that he's going to destroy Beefcake's surgically repaired face. Yes, Brutus Beefcake's surgically repaired face. Jimmy Hart's like, man, you don't have to do that. We got stuff to do. We got business to take care of. And we go to the intro, and the commentary team, who are, the big story of this episode, is Brutus Beefcake.
Right.
That's the main storyline. Also Hulk Hogan, which we'll get to that part, but oh my god. They talked about Hulk Hogan so much. It's almost like, hey guys, guess who's going to be on the show next week?
Right.
Which he was, but we'll get there. So, one of 4 matches of the night, it is the Steiner Brothers, who just recently were inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. So, congratulations to Rick and Scott.
Congratulations.
Legit one of my favorite tag teams as a kid, especially this time frame. I was always a huge, even though they were from Michigan, I was always a huge Steiner Brothers fan, and now that you've been watching them, you can understand why.
Absolutely.
So, they're going up against the tag team of Glenn Ruth, who we've seen before, who goes on to become Thrasher of the Headbangers in a few years.
Gotcha.
And Bobby Who.
Who?
Exact. No, he was on first. Who's on first? Fun fact
I
about
love that skit.
I love it. I was not one of those that can memorize it, but there for a while, I could actually give you the starting lineup, though.
Right.
I couldn't give you the skit, but I could give you the lineup. Was it who's on first, what's on second, why's on third?
I don't know what's on third.
Oh, hold on. We're going to pull this up.
Okay.
Because I used to be able to give you the lineup. Like, starting lineup.
Yeah, wordplay like that, it's some of my favorite comedy.
Oh, wordplay, puns. Okay. Okay, here we go. We got thank you, Wikipedia. Who's on first? What's on second? I don't know's on third. Why's the left field? Because the center field. Tomorrow's the pitcher. Today's the catcher. And I don't give a damn is shortstop.
Oh my gosh.
Or I don't give a darn, but...
Yeah, I always heard I don't care was the shortstop.
I've heard both. I think it really depended on when they did it, but guys, go out of your way to listen to it. Abbott and Costello, which they also did great movies. Like, I used to watch, like, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, and great comedy duo from back in the day, guys. It's classic, absolutely fantastic classic comedy.
Absolutely.
So, apparently Bobby's a distant relative of a baseball player. Scott's using that hidden speed that he was known for back in the day. And chain wrestling, he lands a dragon suplex on Ruth. Just drops him just stiff. I mean, he landed perfectly. It wasn't like it was a dangerous, but it was snug. But if you know how to land and how the wrestling works, he landed perfectly.
Yeah.
Rick and Bobby tag in. Rick hits that overhead belly to belly. Tags back in Scott, who hits a nice drop kick. And now this was impressive, even for as much as I've been watching the Steiner Brothers since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Scott lifts up Bobby Who in the crew like he's doing a crucifix powerbomb, like a Razor's Edge type move. Lifts him up in the crucifix position. Walks across, and if you look on Scott's face, there was no effort. He has him in the crucifix bomb position, walks across the ring, and tags in Rick, who drops an elbow while the guy's still in the crucifix position.
Oh my gosh, that was nuts.
It was a fantastic spot. I'd never seen it before, and you can just tell, like, I'm sure these guys are all over 200 pounds. Like, Scott's lifting this guy up over his head like nothing. He's just walking around the ring with this guy.
Yeah, he makes it look easy.
Yeah, like, I don't think people realize just how strong these guys were. There's a match in WCW with Scott and the Giant, when Paul White was still the Giant. Scott threw the Giant with an exploder suplex.
Oh, wow.
I've seen the clip. That's how strong Scott Steiner I'm sure he's still quite strong these days.
Very impressive.
Yeah, like, I'm sure he's still strong today.
Right, but you're talking 30 years ago.
Yeah, Anyways, Rick toys with Bobby Who, hits the Steiner line, we call it around here, the trauma boner.
Right.
Scott tags him in, hits the Tiger Driver. They get the Doomsday Bulldog for the win.
Doomsday Bulldog, that's what it's called.
Yeah, it's like the Doomsday device position, but they did it with a Bulldog.
Gotcha.
So I call it the Doomsday Bulldog because basically any move off that position is kind of like the Doomsday device, but, clotheslines, drop kicks, cutters, bulldogs.
I gotcha. So yeah, that's 3 minutes, 34 seconds match time.
Relatively dense for being an enhancement squash match.
Dense for that, but compared to a standard match, there wasn't too much.
No, obviously, like, we're not going to give Glenn and Bobby a lot of stuff against the Steiners, but a lot still happened, and it wasn't like, oh, this is just awful.
Right.
So we go into, I believe it's the first WrestleMania 9 Control Center with Hall of Famer Mean Gene Okerlund. And they've actually already announced we're about a month and a half, 2 months out from WrestleMania.
I think it's about a month and a half. It was in April, right?
Yeah, we're about a month and a half away. And they've already announced 3 matches. One we already know of was for the WWE title. We're going to get Bret Hart defending against Yokozuna.
Right.
We are going to get the Undertaker versus the reported 8-foot-tall Giant Gonzalez.
Yes.
Who was, like we said, was a legitimate 7'6". And we are actually going to get the Crush Voices Dink versus Doink match that we are building. We've been building towards since week 1 of Raw.
Right.
So those are the 3 matches we announced so far. Obviously, there's going to be more, but that's what we got so far. Speaking of Yokozuna, we have the number 1 contender to the world title up next, going up against poor Russ Greenberg.
Yeah, match starts with a lot of Yokozuna posturing.
Yeah, because a lot of that, if you watch sumo wrestling, a lot of that is like traditional sumo mannerisms, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Right, yeah, now you've mentioned it, now I kind of remember.
That's like a lot of these sumo wrestlers would do this, and then, like, when they throw the salt in the ring, I've read that the salt's supposed to help ward off bad evil spirits, so...
Right.
He's doing a lot of the traditional, like I said, for lack of a better term, mannerisms that you would do before a sumo match. So
yes,
it made sense. I'm sure Russ Greenberg is a smart man, hopefully well-educated. But he made the dumb mistake to run in charge at Yokozuna.
Yeah, he got knocked right the hell down when he tried that.
Clothesline, belly to belly. Landed a leg drop. Which, by the way, if you watched it, Yokozuna had one of the safest leg drops in the world.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Next time you watch it, he didn't even touch the dude.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch the way he laid, even Bret Hart said this, the way he lands the leg, like a feather.
Cool.
That just shows you how good Yokozuna really was.
Right.
Because if you watch this match again, I don't think he barely touched the guy, if at all. But it looked like he destroyed the dude.
Yeah, it looked like a mugging.
Yeah. So Yoko puts him in the corner, gets that corner backsplash, bonsai drop, and we're done.
Yeah, 2 minutes, 1 second.
Okay. And then we touched about this on the last Dropkicks episode about his match that he was going to have with Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And we did go into detail about it last week because I had forgotten that they actually had shown video footage this week. So they go to, I believe they called it, was it Superstars or All American Wrestling?
Yeah, Superstars is what they call it.
Thank you, Superstars. Because I know both of them were shows WWF had.
Right.
So it was Superstars. It was a match between Yokozuna and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, who, he had a football background. This guy wasn't a small dude by any means.
Right.
Go in using his 3-point stance clothesline several times. He's actually able to, they credit him as being the first person to solo knock Yokozuna off his feet.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes to celebrate, and he does that thing where the good guy celebrates way too much. The crowd starts pointing that something's going on behind him, but he's like, yay, woo, I did good. They're like, no, turn around. They're like, yay, hi,
Yeah.
So, we're feeding in that he looks dumb when he turns around. So he turns around and gets a handful of salt in his face, and then I don't remember if they showed all three of them, but if I remember correctly, as a child, like I said, I was still 10. I hadn't turned 11 yet. This is still a couple months before I turned 11. 3 bonsai drops.
He got absolutely destroyed by Yoko.
And the last one, I believe they draped the American flag over him doing it.
Yeah, they did.
Jim Duggan left the arena on a stretcher. They had blood coming out of his mouth. They made it look like that he absolutely was just devastated.
Yeah.
So we come back from that. Vince mentions that there's a 16-man battle royal coming out, which is no title, no Royal Rumble. This is just a bragging rights battle royal.
Mm-hmm.
That Giant Gonzalez was supposed to be one of the members in here.
Right. We have another flashback to Superstars for that.
Well, no, they go to a 3-on-1 squash match he did.
Right, that's what I meant.
And then the battle royal we're getting ready to have, they're like, all the other participants are like, hey, if he's in it, we're not.
Right.
So they actually removed Giant Gonzalez from the battle royal, or nobody else would compete in it. And then they just go what they're doing. Like I said, he had a 3-on-1 match on Superstars. And this is kind of like what they did with him to promote how big and devastating he was. 2-on-1s, 3-on-1s.
Right.
Not a lot of 1-on-1s, honestly. So we go to that 16-man battle royal, and minus Giant Gonzalez, the other members of this battle royal are Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, Kamala, Iron Mike Sharp, Bob Backlund, Kimchi, the former handler of Kamala, the Berserker, Tatanka, Owen Hart, Damian Demento, El Matador Tito Santana, Terry Taylor, Coco Beware, Typhoon, and Skinner. Like I said, no titles, no title shots, no special prize. This is just bragging rights type match. And they start it with everyone on the outside, and they all just go in at once. However, Shawn Michaels stays on the outside. He's going to take his time. He's going to let everybody else fight it out first.
Yeah, good strategy for a heel.
Mm-hmm. And then Kimchi, obviously, who's the odd man out of this, is doing the 5Ds from dodgeball, duck, dip, dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge.
Mm-hmm.
Because, he's trying to stay away from Kamala. And obviously, there's not a lot that really happens for the first, I would say, almost half of this match. Because, once again, every guy's in the match was once. So we can't be like, oh, well, this guy comes in and then this happens. So not a lot for us to really report on too much other than the eliminations at first. Because everybody's in there once. And if you've been in a battle royal like I have a few times, not a lot of space to work if there's a lot of people in there.
Right.
But we get our first elimination where Coco charges HBK, who dodges and dumps him to the outside. Typhoon clothesline Skinner over the top. Kamala throws out Demento. Owen jumps on Berserker's back, but he just gets flung out to the outside. And Berserker turns around and Kamala kicks him to the outside. Typhoon is trying to eliminate Kamala, but Kimchi comes out over there to help Typhoon eliminate Kamala, who comes back in and eliminates Kimchi. And Kamala chases him through the crowd as they go to commercial.
Yeah, that's going to be a thing for part of the rest of the match.
Oh yeah, like it's funny. Like it was humorous. It did its job. I didn't have a problem with this.
Yes,
because Kamala was portrayed as a funny character. This was a funny spot. It worked. When we come back, there was a couple other people thrown out of the ring. Commercial. I believe Terry Taylor and I want to say Mike Sharp. There was a couple that were thrown out during the commercial.
Yeah, Backlund would have been too because I didn't see him go out.
Okay, so he was out there too. Typhoon charges Shawn Michaels in the corner, who uses that momentum to dump him out to the floor.
Yeah, that leaves our final four as Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, Tatanka, and Tito Santana.
Yep. And Santana was able to hit his flying forearm finisher to Razor Ramon. And Santana and Tatanka actually eliminate HBK. They team up and eliminate him. Mm-hmm. Giant Gonzalez then comes out, takes out all three men, and while Razor's on the floor, he actually rolls under the bottom rope to the outside, so he's not eliminated.
Right.
But Tatanka and Santana are by Giant Gonzalez, so by proxy, because Razor, and then Gonzalez leaves, and then because Razor Ramon went under the bottom rope, he's declared the winner.
Yeah, 13 minutes, 42 seconds for that one.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
No, not bad.
It did its job. We got a lot of guys to get some screen time. We're still using it to push Giant Gonzalez as this absolute devastating beast.
Yeah, that is what you do with a guy that size.
Yeah, and like the funny moment with Kamala and Kimchi after the eliminations, I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah, I agree. I like that
because they go through the crowd, they go through the whole arena. Like it did its job. Like I have nothing bad to say about this, honestly.
Agreed.
So we go to the main event of the evening, which is the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase versus Brutus the Barber Beefcake, who has having his first match legitimately in about 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, we went over what happened to him last episode.
And by the way, they mentioned Hulk Hogan every 10 seconds, so he may or may not show up next week, guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on the subject of the commentary, there was also a bit earlier on that Savage's microphone was malfunctioning, so he just wound up taking Bartlett's microphone, and so Bartlett has been quiet pretty much the whole show.
Yeah, and I had no problem with that.
Yeah, like we've said, Bartlett just felt like he didn't want to be there. He didn't even try.
Yeah, and after that first week, they had to have, like we said after the first week, they had to have said something because he's been toned down a lot with his stupid humor.
Yeah.
But like I said, he's out, I want to say within the first 6 months or so, he's gone.
Okay.
So he'll be gone before, I think he's out before SummerSlam. But yeah, if you didn't notice that Hulk Hogan was coming soon, guys, and he's buddies with Brutus Beefcake, they will tell you every 14 and a half seconds that Hulk Hogan's coming. Like the commentating, every other move, every other thing. Hulk Hogan, Hulk Hogan, Hulk Hogan, Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Oh, in case you didn't hear it the first time, Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, not subtle.
No, it wasn't even, whatever's more blatant than blatant, it was that. But getting to the match, Brutus comes in and he's trying to get that early psych on the mind games. Every time he goes to lock up, he does the whole cutting and strutting thing to piss off DiBiase. And they spill out to the outside. And that's just something you and I do, just because the way we're made up in the head. We'll notice something why did you notice that for no specific reason whatsoever?
Right.
When they spilled out to the outside, you know how we've all been to live wrestling shows, like you'll have your drink or your snacks, you'll have it on the empty stuff on the floor until you get a chance to throw it away.
Yeah.
We've done it.
Absolutely.
Well, when they got to the front row, I noticed the guy, for some reason I noticed this. And it's inconsequential to anything. But just the fact that I noticed, like, oh, that guy had a bag of Funyuns. I recognize the Funyuns bag.
I did not see that.
Yeah, see what I'm saying?
I do.
Well, one, I absolutely fucking love Funyuns, by the way. But it's just, out of everything, you got the sweaty men in front of you, and I noticed some dude had a bag of Funyuns on the floor.
Yeah, of all the things to notice, why that?
Exactly. Funyuns. So we get into the match. DiBiase's obviously going for Beefcake's face. Obviously, we've been promoting this. We know about his injury.
Yeah, Ted gets punched in the face a few times and falls out between the ropes, and that pisses him off something fierce.
Yeah, because he's trying to protect the face. A lot of times he would try to slam Beefcake's face in the turnbuckle, but it got blocked every time. Obviously, content-wise, this wasn't a big match because it was a lot of it was geared towards what happened after the match.
Right.
Because during the match, Jimmy Hart comes out, and he's not happy. Because he comes out with Ted. Jimmy Hart's not happy because a few minutes into this match, DiBiase's tag partner, IRS, Erwin R. Scheister, they're both the tag team champions as Money Inc., comes out with his briefcase. He always came out with the briefcase because, tax collector.
Right.
One of those Halliburton-looking metal ones.
Mm-hmm.
So Beefcake bounces off the ropes. He's going for something, and IRS catches him with the briefcase shot to the back. DQ, match is over.
Yeah. 4 minutes, 27 seconds on that, but honestly, it wasn't bad for that time and for the way it ended.
No, but we also know that the match was not as important as what happened afterwards.
Right.
So what happened is Jimmy Hart's obviously pissed. Like, what are you guys doing? They're both beating him down, and he's like, guys, stop. What are you doing? And then DiBiase holds up Beefcake, and they tried to, the referee and Jimmy Hart both tried to stop him. Because what happens is IRS rushes in and cracks Beefcake in the face with the metal briefcase.
Yeah, that looked really painful.
But if you watched it, I'm not trying to be like, it's not really, like, you actually, if you watched it, you can see that it actually hit him in the top of the head, like he ducked for it.
Gotcha.
It's just, I've been watching it for so long, and then the way I was trained, I pick up on the minutia.
Yeah, I gotcha.
But, hey, obviously, he got blasted in the face. He had all this work done. He was almost dead. And he's selling it like he got shot, which obviously he should have.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Hart actually turns face. Because they toss him out of the ring, hit Beefcake with the briefcase, and then Jimmy Hart comes in to check on Bruce's Beefcake. Like, we get a face turn from Jimmy Hart.
How surprising was this, considering Jimmy's history at this point?
Well, Jimmy had already, ever since I started watching wrestling, Jimmy Hart had always been a heel manager. And if you watch old Jimmy Hart stuff, you understand that he was the weird Weasley, I'm gonna kick, my guy's gonna kick your guys' ass, baby, I'm Jimmy Hart. Like, he always had the high voice, like, he always wanted to punch him in the face.
Gotcha.
So, and then you also realize that he was good friends with Hulk Hogan, so, anyways. And they also do show a spot, there's a nice, decent-sized blood stain on the mat, trying to show how devastating the injury was. And this is, so we go back from commercial, we're trying to sell, oh my god, Beefcake he could never wrestle again, we don't know, he's hurt. And the funny thing was, they come back from commercial, and they're like, oh, he's gonna be okay, no life-threatening injuries, he'll be fine. But while they're saying this, instead of showing, like, like a wide shot of the ring, or maybe the blood stain, they're like, oh, Beefcake, he had this devastating injuries, they cut to people going, hi, I'm smiling, I'm on TV, while they're talking about this man who just got this devastating injury to the face.
Yeah, that was a very puzzling decision to me.
I was like, you're not helping your cause.
It was incongruous.
It was very, the antithesis of what they were trying to get over.
Yeah.
So obviously, we're going to promote what happens next week on Raw. We're going to get Money Inc. in action next week. And then we're actually going to get a 6-man tag between Tatanka and the Nasty Boys versus Shawn Michaels and the Beverly Brothers. And in case you didn't hear it the 87 times before, Hulk Hogan's coming next week.
We got it.
Exactly. So overall, wasn't a bad show.
I'd give this one a B-.
Yeah, honestly, my favorite match was the Battle Royal was my favorite match.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with that.
Like, this whole episode was built over one match, one storyline, which it did pay off.
Right.
The show did do what it set out to do. And like I said, for the Beefcake match, the match was not as important as the aftermath.
Agreed.
So, but like I said, the Battle Royal, I actually enjoyed the Battle Royal. Sometimes they're just not good. It did what it was supposed to. There was a little bit of humor mixed in with Kamala. This wasn't really for anybody in the ring. It was more for Giant Gonzalez.
Yes.
So, Overall, the match, the show did what it was supposed to do, so I can't complain about it too much.
Yeah, it advanced the storylines. It showed the action. It did what it needed to.
Yeah, like, we've had worse Raws before.
Yes, we have.
We are getting into the last episode of wrestling for this episode. WCW Saturday night of February 20th, 1993. This is a bit of a longer one.
Yeah, this was much longer than the last couple Saturday nights have been.
Yeah, and this was also the day before Super Bowl 3, so obviously that's the big message.
Right.
So we're opening up WCW with Larry Zbyszko, Jim Ross, and Bill Watts. They're opening up, they're hyping up Super Bowl 3. They've actually changed out one of the matches. The Wrecking Crew will no longer be facing the Rock and Roll Express because of an agreement with Bob Armstrong, who was the commissioner for Smoky Mountain Wrestling. We're actually getting a non-title match between the Rock and Roll Express and the Heavenly Bodies instead.
Yeah, looking forward to that one.
Oh, yeah. So we go into our first match of the evening. It's a 6-man tag between Scotty Flamingo, Tex Slazenger, and Shanghai Pierce versus Marcus Alexander Bagwell, Too Cold Scorpio, and my dude, Steve Regal.
Steve Regal. What a guy.
And he actually starts with Scotty Flamingo, who people may know him mainly as, all the hardcore stuff he did as Raven in ECW, and then everything he did as Raven, going on once he had the Raven persona.
Right.
Extremely technically sound wrestler. People sleep on how good Scotty Flamingo, Johnny Polo, Raven, whatever you want to call him, really was. Bagwell gets in quick. Slazenger gets the tag after Flamingo gets a solid elbow right to the face.
Bagwell's working Slazenger's left arm, gets a tag to Scorpio, and they do that tag team arm attack that we like.
Oh, yeah. But Pierce is actually able to get a little bit of control over Scorpio, who gets the control back, tags in Bagwell, who takes over Pierce. And then we get Regal tagging in for the first time since the beginning. But Pierce gets the best of him, so he tags Scorpio back in. Like, the good guys are tagging in very fast.
Yes.
And then I noticed this was kind of a blatant miscommunication. I don't know where the mix-up was at. But Scorpio looked like he went for just like a simple drop kick. But at the same time, Shanghai Pierce ducked, so they just collided.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like, I don't know whether what the miscommunication was, but there was the drop kick that they got missed. But Scorpio drop kicks him a couple more times and then does a nice dive to the outside.
Yeah, crossbody press over the top rope. Very nice. Yeah, we tag to Regal and Tex after that. They go back and forth for a bit. Regal hits a double arm suplex and goes for a cover. Pierce breaks that up.
And then we get Bagwell to get tagged back in. Works on Slazenger a little bit, but as he goes to run off the ropes, Bagwell gets low bridge by Flamingo and hits the floor. Scorpio's able to tag in a little bit after they work on Bagwell. And then he starts throwing spin kicks and super kicks to everyone. As the match breaks down, as matches like this tend to do, all 6 men are in the ring fighting. They do a nice little spot where the good guys throw all the bad guys into each other. Scorpio tags in Flamingo, Scorpio and Flamingo are the legal men. He tags Flamingo with a kick, corner splash, that twisty-looking Twisted Bliss style splash, and the good guys win.
Okay, it was kind of like Twisted Bliss. That's why it looked familiar to me.
Yeah, we talked about this is the same match. This is that same move he used against Clash of the Champions against Scotty Flamingo.
Oh, right.
I don't know if he had a name for it, but it's very reminiscent of a Twisted Bliss.
Gotcha. Yeah, that match was 10 minutes, 38 seconds. Not dense, but well-paced.
Well-paced, everybody got their stuff in. And other than that one misstep, it wasn't a bad match.
Yeah.
So, Sting comes out for an interview with JR rocking one of those Pimp Daddy fur coats. He's like, oh, I'm using this because it's cold. The White Castle is cold. I'm like, well, you're not wrestling there, but, I get what he's doing. But
Right.
He just puts over how dangerous Vader is.
Yes.
And that's a good thing. Like, they always taught us this in wrestling school. When you cut a promo against your opponent, you never want to just talk crap about your opponent the entire time. Oh, you're garbage. Oh, I'm going to beat you. You're nothing. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I talked to one of my friends about that. You don't want to put them down because then if you lose, what does that say about you?
And if they win, how bad does that make you look?
Right.
So you always want to put over, how, how your opponent is good enough to be able to face you, because then it makes everybody look bad if you make your guy look good. Because if you both look good, if you guys come out both looking good, everything looks better.
Right.
But basically, the prime message of this is Sting says he's going to lock in the Scorpion Deathlock. And not only is he going to hold on until Vader's bones bend, he's going to hold on until things start popping.
Yeah, very intense promo. Very well done.
Oh, yeah. And then we get to Vinny Vegas, who we now know is Kevin Nash, versus Brad Anderson. And Brad Anderson's getting a little squirrely with him, trying to get his stuff. Vegas is getting a little bit irked.
Yeah, Anderson very aggressive as the match starts. He does hold his own for a bit, but Vegas is able to take the advantage pretty quick.
Yeah, he gets a knee lift, starts dropping blows in the corner. Anderson actually comes off the second rope with a crossbody that looked nice, like a twisting crossbody that I liked.
That was a good match, but it only got the 1 count, though.
Yeah, and Vegas popped up and hit him with a big old clothesline. And then it's Vinny Vegas the rest of this. He keeps him grounded a little bit more. Side slam, snake eyes, match is over.
3 minutes, 26 seconds on that one. Anderson got him more than I'd expect for a squash match, but not too much more.
No, he looked good. Vinny Vegas looked good. And now we go backstage to Tony Schiavone with Max Payne, who has a much better promo than he did last time. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, this was definitely better.
Basically, he's saying he's going to be at Super Brawl, and he's going to introduce everybody to somebody named Norma Jean. We know nothing about Norma Jean, who they are, what they look like. We just know that he is bringing Norma Jean with him to Super Brawl.
Right. I feel sure that's a pop culture reference, but I don't know what it's to.
Well, the first thing I could think of, without really diving too deep into this, Norma Jean Baker was the actual real name of Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm sure that's where Norma Jean comes from. I'm sure. But we'll see who Norma Jean is at Super Brawl.
Right.
But that's the first thing that popped in my head when I thought of was Marilyn Monroe. So we go back from commercial. JR is there with Paul Orndorf, who's there to talk about his Falls Count Anywhere match with Cactus Jack, saying that just because it may be Cactus Jack's environment doesn't mean he's not going to put a hurting on him.
Right. This promo was absolutely vicious.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, I loved me some Paul Orndorf, especially in the promos. Like, this not really the kind of guy that you want to face in a Falls Count Anywhere match.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about how he's, the master of the pile driver. Once he locks it in, that's it. And he's actually going to join the commentary team as a color commentator for the next match because it is Cactus Jack versus Mustafa Saeed. And what most people are going to recognize him from is the thing that he's most known for is Mustafa Saeed was one half of the Gangstas, with an A, not an ER, the Gangstas in ECW with New Jack. They held the tag titles a couple times.
Cool.
So this was a few years before that. And obviously this is all Cactus Jack.
Yeah.
He batters him a little bit. He drapes him across the ropes, drops a leg drop. Mustafa's actually able to get a couple shots in, but before Jack throws him to the outside, leg drops him on the concrete, rolls him in, gets the pin. Match is over.
Yeah, that's just a minute 49.
Once again, it did what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
So we get Eric Bischoff coming back in to the Super Brawl 3 Control Center. Same card, couple updates. Like we've already talked about the replacement for the Wrecking Crew. Other than that, as of right now, there's no real updates other than that.
Yeah, they do show the full card.
Yeah, which they showed it last week, so we're not really going to go over it. We just talked about it a few minutes ago. And so we're going to come back to Big Van Vader versus Chris Sullivan.
Yeah, I was expecting this one to be pretty quick.
Yeah, Vader did what Vader does. Thunderfire Powerbomb, match is over.
Yeah, just a minute 45 on there, nothing really of note.
No, he did the same thing he did to the guy last week after the match too.
Yeah, as the wrestlers come out to try to get him out of the ring, he's holding him at bay using the strap like it's a bullwhip.
Yeah, and he gets DQ'd again, so actually Chris Sullivan wins. This will actually go down as a win for Chris Sullivan, but we get why.
Right.
So we go to our next match, Keith Cole versus Max Payne, and they keep talking about how Max Payne was a All-American wrestler, and I actually looked it up. He went to Iowa State. Payne got early control, but Cole was actually keep him on a headlock for quite a while.
See, yeah, there's a lot of side headlocks in this match.
Yeah, that's basically the majority of the match was Keith Cole with the side headlock. Payne comes back, drops him with a nice slam, clothesline. Cole dodges an elbow drop, goes back to the headlock. Hey, go with what works.
Right.
Eventually, Max Payne comes back, hits a couple slams on the arm, locks in the painkiller, match is over.
Yeah, 4 minutes, 6 seconds. And I don't want to undersell this. This wasn't a bad match. It was just not sure how to put it, but it wasn't bad.
It was one-sided, but at the same time, there was not much offense from Keith Cole other than the headlock.
Okay, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So we come back from commercial. There's actually going to be a lumberjack match between Brian Pillman and Ricky Steamboat, and they have Pillman and Austin backstage with Tony Shivani, talking about how they're going to win the lumberjack match, but they're still coming for the tag titles.
Right.
And then we get the last match before lumberjack match, the Wrecking Crew and Z-Man and Johnny Gunn. Now, here's the thing. We talked about this. They fought each other at Clash of the Champions 22. We talked about that in our first episode.
Right.
I was kind of scared that we were going to see a lot of the same, and we actually didn't.
This was a good match. We'll get into it obviously.
Sure, but I was expecting. Part of me was hoping that they weren't going to do just
the same
a rehash thing. Yeah, and they really didn't. Honestly, this was a different match.
Right.
Rage goes in for Keith Cole's favorite move,
the side headlock. Side
headlock on Tom Zank.
So yeah, this one lasts a long time.
Oh yeah, not as long as our main event though. But Zank comes in, he actually dropkicks both members of the Wrecking Crew to the floor, but Fury's able to tag in, drive him to the corner, and start burying his shoulders into his stomach.
Yeah, Z-Man dodges quickly, gets a brief armbar, and then we tag back to Gunn, do that tag attack to Fury's arm.
So they're working on the arm. Rage tags in. He catches Gunn with like a front slam, kind of looks like the world's strongest slam type front power slam.
Mm-hmm.
And he locks in a half Boston Crab, which actually does hurt your leg more than the regular Boston Crab.
Really? Why is that?
Because when you're doing the Boston Crab and you got both legs pulling back, you're putting all the pressure on your lower, some pressure on the leg, sure, but it's focused on the lower back.
Okay.
When you're doing the single leg, it puts all the pressure on the leg itself because it's not spread out as much.
Okay, that makes sense.
So he's putting all the pressure on the leg, and they're doing the move where they hold on to each other's hand to put more pressure while the ref is not able to see it.
Right.
But instead of waiting for the ref, Zank just comes in and kicks Rage right in the face.
Yeah, that looked painful.
Zank gets a hot tag, and this was a counter I kind of like, where it's like, hey, you're a strong guy, don't do anything fancy for counters. Zank goes for a head scissors. He gets towards the Wrecking Crew side, and Fury just punches him right in the face.
Yeah, that was a good counter. Yeah, Rage stayed on his feet, through that head scissors.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, I'm gonna just punch you right in the mouth, and that's a counter right there. Just sometimes you just gotta punch him in the mouth.
Absolutely.
Fury locks in some sort of camel clutch looking maneuver.
Yeah, camel clutch. That's what Rusev uses the accolade, right?
Yeah, it's camel clutch.
Okay.
Actually invented by Eddie Guerrero's father.
Really? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. He invented it.
Cool.
But the Wrecking Crew are now coming in with their quick tags and slams, but Zank actually lands in that super kick he's been known to use, tags in Gunn, who gets a super tight small package for 2.
Mm-hmm.
But Gunn actually lands his Thez press finisher, but he has to hit Rage as he comes in. Like, as Rage comes in, as soon as he lands the move, Rage comes in, so he has to break up the pinfall and then attack Rage to keep it going.
Yeah.
Gunn and Fury do a double down, and then this is the second big mistake of the evening. Rage looks like he's going for an elbow drop, but he slips. So he doesn't get all of it, but obviously that's the finish, so we're still going to get the 3 count. But he slipped off when he's coming off the rope, and he really didn't land a lot of that elbow drop.
Yeah, that looked weird to me, and I couldn't figure out why. Now you've said it, now I get it.
Yeah.
So that was a 10-minute, 32-second match. That was good.
Mm-hmm. We get back from commercial, and we're doing our WCW up close, but Gordon Soley's outside. Instead of like studio or a nice little set, Gordon Soley's actually outside waiting for Barry Windham to pull up on his motorcycle.
I like the setup here.
Yeah, it's something different. And he talks about how supposedly Ric Flair may or may not show up at Super Brawl. Barry Windham basically says, look, I don't care. But all he really wants to do is talk about his opponent, the Great Muta, which I kind of get.
Right.
So this is basically talking about how he's talking about how he's going to put over Great Muta, but still puts over how good the Great Muta is. So, and obviously we're going to build towards that for the next day. Now we go to our last match of the show. Last match of our show. It is a lumberjack match between Flying Brian Pillman and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
And I'm really looking forward to this one because I like what I've seen from both of these guys as we've started this podcast. And lumberjack matches are one of my favorites.
Yeah, and for those that don't know what a lumberjack match is, basically you have your good guy and your bad guy, and each person has a group of wrestlers. Like you're going to have Ricky Steamboat has a handful of face wrestlers on his side. Brian Pillman has a group of heel wrestlers on his side. And they're basically supposed to keep the match in the ring. If one person rolls out or gets thrown out, they're basically just supposed to throw the person back in. Obviously, it never works out that way.
Right.
But that's the general rule. Hey, we're going to keep the match in the ring, so no shenanigans happens, but shenanigans always happen.
Shenanigans always happen.
Exactly. So early on, they do everything. They start testing each other out. Austin, who's obviously on Pillman's side, which why wouldn't he be a lumberjack, grabs Steamboat leg and hops in, but Shane Douglas slides in to even it up, and they mentioned because if Shane Douglas comes in with a limp, they had mentioned about a week or so prior on one of the other WCW shows, Pillman and Austin attacked Douglas's knee after a match. They hit it with, I believe, some sort of pipe of some sort. So he's injured. He's walking with a limp for this. Pillman powders out a couple times, and basically the majority of it is both sets of lumberjacks kind of meet in the middle and be like, no, don't cross over this line. You better not do anything.
Right.
Which is obviously that's what they're supposed to. They're trying to keep order. Pillman has a nice cross body, and he keeps the pressure on. Pillman actually has control for, I would say, a good 85% to 90% of this match. This match is all Pillman.
Yeah, at about this point in the match, the commentators note that Steamboat's very good at countering, so Pillman is taking the basic stuff, which was an interesting note to me.
Yeah, like, if you know the guy is good at counter wrestling, like Steamboat was, you're not going to throw your big stuff out right away. It's like the whole Muhammad Ali rope-a-dope. I'm going to let the guy tire himself out, then I'm going to punch him in the face. Pillman actually powders out, but he powders out on the wrong side, so they roll him back in quickly. Steamboat gets a 2 count on a roll-up, and we go to our first commercial break. This is a multi-commercial break match, folks. And it wasn't a bad long match, either. They come back from a commercial with a back... Steamboat gets a back suplex, but he gets tossed to the outside. He's on the apron, and he goes like he's trying to suplex Brian Pillman to the outside, but Austin hits Steamboat with a kidney shot. No, so Steamboat gets in, he goes for a dive off the top, like looks like some sort of like a double axe handle or some sort of like, he used to do like the head chop from the top rope. Pillman counters it with a drop kick and gets a close 2 count. Steamboat runs at him, Pillman catches him with a side slam for another 2 count. And then he cinches back on with a Boston Crab.
And of course we have Austin assisting from the outside, Cactus Jack trying to keep him off, but Douglas approaches having seen that. The ref backs him away, and Austin takes advantage while the ref is distracted.
Yeah, and it was a really cool way. Like, I had never really seen... Like, we saw it in the Wrecking Crew match. If you got your guy's got somebody locked in a submission, you grab their arm so you can pull back on the pressure.
Right.
Obviously, you can't do that with the way the Boston Crab was set up. So what Austin did is he put his hand on Pillman's forehead and pushed his head back to kind of like push him back to lock in the pressure. I don't remember ever seeing that before, so that was kind of a cool...
Yeah, it was a neat way to enhance the submission.
Oh, yeah. So we see the Steamboat, obviously he's had his back worked on all match, so he goes for body slam, but Pillman is able to shift his weight to kind of like fall on top.
Yeah, that results in a 2 count.
Yep, and then Pillman gets up, locks in an abdominal stretch.
Yeah, and again, we have him using Stunning Steve for leverage.
Which makes sense. I mean, that's your tag buddy.
Yeah, he finally gets caught, though.
Yeah, Steamboat explodes out, catches him with an elbow right to the face. And then he just like, screw it. Steamboat leaps out and elbows Austin in the face because he's tired of all the bullcrap. So the Lumberjacks finally break down and they start fighting with each other. It gets into a little brawl. Steamboat actually is locked into a camel clutch by Brian Pillman. Steamboat is actually able to fight back, able to, from the sitting position, get Pillman on his shoulders, and hits an electric chair drop as we go to our second commercial, guys.
Electric chair drop, that's what that's called. Thank you.
So we come back from commercial, and we actually see JR and Larry Zbyszko, who tell us that during the commercial break, the match ended.
Yeah, cameras were rolling, so we'll see what happened.
So, and they're actually going to do the commentary with it. They come back, both men are with the double down with the double crossbody. Steamboat dodges a knee drop, and you can tell that these men are absolutely exhausted.
Yeah, very clear.
Pillman goads Steamboat, tosses him out to the outside. The heel Lumberjacks start to beat him down. The Lumberjacks start fighting again. They're going to fight basically for the remainder of the match. Steamboat is actually able to land a shin breaker in a figure four, but Austin comes in to break it up. He holds Pillman. He holds up Steamboat for Pillman to hit him. Steamboat dodges and hits a roll-up to win the match. Oh my God.
Yeah, that match was amazing. The bell-to-bell time, as I saw it on Peacock, was 20 minutes, 5 seconds. Obviously, that wasn't quite how long it went since the decision happened during the commercial. But
we'll go with 20 minutes and 5 seconds. And holy shit, was this match good.
Yeah, this was the match of our episode, I would say.
Oh, yeah. Match of this episode of WCW. Match of this episode of DNA as well.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah. Overall, match of the show, match of the night. This is when you got guys like this who are very good at what they do, and you give them... This is what I'm saying, is when you have wrestlers that are good at what they do and you give them time...
They can tell a story.
You get stuff like this.
Right.
And we are now on the road to Super Brawl 3, which is actually the next day, mind you. So, speaking of that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on episode 11 of the Dropkicks and Attractions podcast. Oh my God, next week's episode 12. You guys have no idea how excited I am to talk about this. We are legitimately talking about easily maybe top 5, if not top 3 movies of all time, in my opinion. We are talking about Jurassic Park.
I haven't seen this movie in ages. I am very much looking forward to it.
Oh, I saw this in theaters as a kid.
I did too, I think.
It came out like a couple days before my birthday, so I was maybe 11.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see if it still holds up, but spoiler alert, yeah, it does. So, for episode 13, the next Dropkicks of the Dropkicks and Attractions podcast episode is Super Brawl 3, and as we know, pay-per-views get their own episode, so we will be talking exclusively about Super Brawl 3 in 2 weeks. You can find the podcast on Twitter at capital D and capital A, Podcast 1. You can find us Fridays on YouTube, Saturdays on Stitcher, Spotify, and now, glad to say, we are now on Apple Podcasts. So if you use your iTunes or Apple Music, you can now find us. You're looking up Dropkicks and Attractions. Very exciting. And also, please let us know through either one of us or through the show podcast, or excuse me, the podcast Twitter page. If you want us anywhere, we'll try to put it anywhere we can. Obviously, any podcast site that'll accept us. I am on social medias on Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Hover, at Xander Invictus.
And I'm on most of those same socials at Big Bucked.
So thank you very much, everybody, for coming out, and we will see you next week for some frickin' dinosaurs.
Take care, everybody.